Alex Radcliffe, CMO of Gamefound, and we are back with another Feast event. It's that time of year again, another chance to show you a whole bunch of projects. We have 13 today, 13 projects, 13 games, and in some cases not games, to talk about, to showcase, to see if there are things that you might be interested in over the coming months. And today's starting project, the first project in today's feast, is a name many of you might recognize, but not typically from the board game space. This is Gothic, a game that's been in the, well, video game space for many, many years across many iterations, and THQ Nordic is bringing it to the tabletop space. One of the things that's fascinating about this, though, is THQ Nordic is the company that makes the video game, and they're also going to be the company that's making the board game as well. So they're completely responsible from start to finish of both of these games, tabletop and video game, and the adaptation that's required to bring it to life. And so let's go ahead and start by talking to them and see what challenges they face and what they plan on doing to bring Gothic to your tabletop. Ian, one of the most interesting things about this particular discussion is I find there's a lot of video game adaptations in the board game space nowadays, but it's very rare, perhaps this might be the first time for me, where I'm talking directly to the people who are making, well, the video game studio who's making their own board game. Can you tell us a little bit more about THQ Nordic, the games you've made, and a little bit of background here?
Yeah, sure. So, like you said, we're primarily a video game publisher. With a bunch of the studios working with us to create video games. Naturally, that results in a lot of us being geeks. So we actually started turning our first game, Darksiders, into a board game just as sort of a pet project within the office. And the company actually sort of encouraged us to roll with it, and we eventually released it. First in a collector's edition with a video game, and then later as a separate retail release. Now we're taking one of our sort of core IPs, Gothic, and bringing that to the tabletop as well.
Now, so when you say core IPs, what's the history of Gothic exactly?
The first one was released in the early 2000s. It's an action RPG. Didn't really take off too much in North America at that point, but in Europe, especially in Germany and Poland, there is, to this day, an extremely large community of diehard followers for the game.
Fascinating. And so when you take this and adapt it to the board game, so like what's the board game play like?
So there are three elements to the game, really. In the old camp, it covers a lot of the sort of RPG progression type mechanics where you improve your character, take on quests. Then you move on to the journey where you're exploring through the world of Gothic, searching for clues, finding loot, potentially gaining the attention of creatures that might harm you. And the final element would be, depending on what kind of a quest you're on, you might be battling a big boss or a horde of monsters, you may be solving puzzles or various other tasks.
And as far as adapting from the video game, I don't know a ton about the video game itself, but as far as adapting, like what's that process like in terms of trying to create something that works in a board game space, but while remaining true to the video game?
A lot of it was initially identifying what appeals about the video game itself and trying to translate to the tabletop, making sure that, first of all, that we have a fun game to play, but then getting a lot of feedback from fans that we're friends with or from within the company to make sure that it feels like the original Gothic, although still functioning on its own as its own thing on the tabletop.
Perfect. And then for the campaign, is there a follower gift?
Absolutely. You get some custom Gothic dice.
Well, awesome. Well, good luck in the campaign, and I'm excited and intrigued to see what else you do, both video game and board game wise.
Well, thank you very much.
Now, while Gothic was taking a video game and taking the technology out of it to bring it to your tabletop, our next campaign is bringing you a dungeon crawler and adding a little technology into it to elevate and improve the experience. We're going to be talking to Teburu about Sword and Sorcery. They announced this quite some time ago as something that would eventually be coming out, and I always thought it was a perfect match for those two systems. A game that is incredibly well received, but does have an AI that's hard to manage, with a system that tends to make those AI systems significantly easier, and it always felt like a match made in heaven. Let's go ahead and talk to Teburu and see what changes or similarities there are going to be with Sword and Sorcery. So this is an interesting one for me to talk about because I'm familiar with Sword and Sorcery and I'm familiar with Teburu, but the combination of them is what I'm very interested in. And I say this, by the way, as someone who's seen the trailer, which you should check out the campaign page if you haven't seen it yet. Looks very compelling. But let's talk more about this. So you're the designer of this iteration of the game. You want to tell us more about what are we doing here with Sword and Sorcery?
Yeah, so basically we're taking the Sword and Sorcery that you know and love and applying Teburu to it. So the game system is largely the same, but we have all of the new opportunities that Teburu offers. So we have bookkeeping and management of the rules, adjudication, especially the enemy AI, that is both a strong point of the original game, but also one of the heaviest parts to adjudicate manually. And all of the other advantages like having a tutorial, so no booklet with a manual, having all of the the game saved by the game, so you can interrupt and resume next week without having to save anything. The app remembers all of it.
Perfect.
And you basically have a new campaign, so you get the game is based on Immortal Souls. So you have the same cast of characters, you have the same, let's say, world setting, but the story is new. You have a new campaign that reuses those characters. And,
so it's a completely so if you're, because you have two target audiences, I guess. Here you have people who are completely new to Sword and Sorcery, and then people who have played Sword and Sorcery, Immortal Souls specifically. So just to clarify, so you're saying that if you're someone who's played through the entire Immortal Souls, there's still an entirely new campaign here as far as the actual campaign part.
If you are a veteran of the game, you have a new campaign to play that is, let's say, comparable in scope to what there was in Immortal Souls. Mm-hmm. And you can also reuse your miniatures. So if you have all of your old miniatures, yes, you can use the monsters as they are. And we will give you a kit that can make your heroes smart miniatures so they can be used in the system. No need to rebuy what you already possess. You will only be receiving the kit and the new components, so the new tokens, the new tiles that we need for this adventure. Instead, if you are new to this, you can buy everything and you will receive all the miniatures that you need and all of the game.
Very cool. Now, you mentioned earlier the rules. Are there differences to the rules?
So the rules will be mainly the same. We need to do some small adjustments because we are on a digital platform, so something that doesn't work as well, we'll fine-tune to make it work as it needs. But we also have a lot of new opportunities because, for example, the enemy AI is something that you need to know as a player because you need to strategize against the monsters and you need to know what is going to happen so you can play. But at the same time, we can leave some surprises out. So, for example, if there is a big boss, you don't know everything. You know the gist of it, but you know that maybe he has a couple of special abilities that are surprises, and we leave them not disclosed.
Very cool.
You'll have to play to find them out, basically.
Now, as far as the Sword and Sorcery universe, like there's a whole lot of content for this game. What is this campaign touching on as far as that content, and what are your possible plans for the future?
Yeah, so the idea is to start from Immortal Souls, so that cast of characters, that setting, but then we are also, we are in touch with the developers of the original game, and we have their support in this, so we are studying all of the other, let's say, products of this line, and we are looking at what we can then integrate and expand for the future. At the same time, we also want to improve the game on its own, so make sure that even the Immortal Souls that you know can be a little bit expanded, maybe with a little bit more cards, items that are digital in our case.
Perfect. And then last question, is there a follower gift in the campaign?
There will be one. We are not yet ready to disclose what exactly, but follow the campaign and then you will see later.
Great. Well, as again, having played both Teburu and Sword and Sorcery, excited to see this campaign and good luck with everything.
Thank you very much, Alex. Bye. It's been a pleasure.
Speaking for myself, I've been interested in what Teburu's plans were for Sword and Sorcery since I first heard they were tackling it. That's a game more than many others where I felt that the enemy AI could vastly benefit from a system like Teburu's, so I'm excited to see what that final version is going to play out as. But along with a giant dungeon crawler with the Teburu system, you probably need a good gaming table, and to that end we have Geeknson back with the Megan 2.0. Michael, Martin, you guys have done a lot of board game tables. The Bristol, the Gwen, the Archie, the Megan obviously, and now we're here today with the Megan 2.0. Can you tell us a bit more about what's different, what's changed from the last Megan to this one?
I mean, first of all, Alex, thank you for having us here and having this time to talk to you and for you to our backers. First of all, the Megan table is tried and tested table. It's not something we want to present to our backers for the first time and use them as a testing field. It's beloved table, well designed, already tested by our backers. And to Megan 2.0, we bring in whatever we received from our backers, all the feedback we have from them. We tried to incorporate in our table.
We often, we like to call our tables that are from backers to backers, because many features, many accessories actually were originally proposed by our backers. Of course, we will then discuss it within our team, and very often, more often than not, they make it to the final product. So our campaigns are really, really interesting because they also open eyes for what people really would like to see on our tables, and there are a lot of creative minds there and great ideas. So we love to hear this feedback and ideas.
Perfect. As far as tables, something that's interesting here, because I don't usually get to talk about, table. I don't usually get to talk to furniture companies or table companies in these feast interviews, which means something different that I often see from the backer side, but not necessarily from the creator side, is the nature of shipping and delivery around tables, which is a whole different challenge than it is about board games. Can you tell us a bit more about what that process is like, some of the challenges you face? Like, what is it like shipping tables across the entire world?
That's the good thing, a good point. I mean, shipping a table is a completely different animal, and we need to take a lot of things into consideration. That's why we as a Geeknson, we are the only one company offering white glove delivery for our tables. It's like you produce great table and you produce great product, but then you hand it over to third party, and you can only pray that delivery will go well. So we take care of that, and that's why we offer to most of the locations we ship to our white glove delivery where our team comes to your house. They bring the table to your house, and also if you would wish to, they can offer the assembly. So you will got peace of mind, and all you need to worry about is just to sign paperwork.
I just want to add that whenever our delivery crews go, only praise follows. And backers really enjoy our hands-on approach on delivery, because we handle our product from manufacturing to the door of the customer, and we have full control of the process, and people are really enjoying that. And many comments, many feedback we receive, they actually think this is really great. So a great experience overall in communication, mails, and everything. So something to look up to, and not something to be fearful of. Will I get it? We'll get it in one piece. So instead,
and something to be proud of as well.
We are.
And as far as the campaign itself, like I said at the beginning, you offer a lot of different options for different tables, different furniture. What can backers expect to have available to them in this campaign? Will you have benches, chairs, the tables? What will you have outside of the Megan itself?
With this project, we've got many things to be add on and also removed from project, because we listen to our backers. With some campaigns, we offer new things, new ideas. Like Michael said, they come from backers mostly, but we also need to test them with backers, how backers themselves will react with that. So to our new campaign, we have taken out some accessories, some additional furniture, just to have main focus on the table itself.
Also, for example, in the previous campaign for Megan, there was an option. The backer could vote if they prefer to have acrylic beans upgraded or have additional chair variant. And in this campaign, we decided to lean into that, and on top of having those acrylic beans, also offer those chairs for them from, maybe not from the get-go, but at some point as a small reveal. But we'll see. But definitely we will make it.
And lastly, on a slightly more personal note, whenever I see any campaign, yours, any other tables, there's always like a whole lot of different size options. So I guess I'm looking for your personal notes from each of you, from Martin, from Michael. What are your personal preferred table sizes in terms of what you, what you most enjoy, find most convenient? What's your personal preference? Not necessarily recommendation, just personal preference on table size.
Definitely 6 to 8 person table, which is nice size to fit to most of the households and gaming rooms. And usually when you play longer games, when you go 5 plus players, the time to make decisions takes longer. So you rather have 4 players. And 6 to 8 players table is enough to have nice dinner with your family, friends. So to me, is a go-to size.
And you,
I agree with Martin. This is we call it large. So it's like the best size because it's not overly large, because not everybody have enough room to store a larger table, and it is a great balance between like offering enough space to store games, to play, to eat, as Martin mentioned, but it doesn't actually take all that much space in a room. In a case of my preference, I really like our hex tables. I think they are pretty great and unique, especially the new elongated hex, which we call Megan Hex Gem. I mean, seeing it in person usually leaves you with impression. It's something to behold. I mean, it's great.
Thank you very much, Martin and Michael, and good luck on the Megan 2.0.
Thank you very much, Alex.
Now, I should note that the Megan does not have a follower gift, but the Geeknson team is running a separate promotion for the campaign. Make sure to follow the campaign and check out for the updates to learn more information about that as they reveal it. Now, the Megan is not just a table for board games. It's also designed for RPG players as well, and the Geeknson team have a lot of accessories to make it the best possible table for your RPG sessions, which also makes this next campaign possibly right for you too. Coming from Weird Works, we have the Empress Deck and Companion Book for 5th edition D&D. Let's go ahead and find out a bit more about what that is and how it might help out your sessions. Appreciate you joining us here today. I'm not a huge RPG or TTRPG player myself, so for myself and for others like me, can you tell me a bit more what the Empress Deck does? Like, how does it operate? What does it do for players?
Sure, yeah. So the Empress Deck is basically designed to be used in conjunction with Dungeons and Dragons. The idea is you have instead of a traditional tarot, it has all the classes and monster types from D&D, and you can use it for a lot of different, you can use it a lot of different ways in your game. So you can, our favorite thing to do with it is to use it for alternative initiative. So you put a card in for each player and a card in for each monster, and then you shuffle it up and deal it out like you're reading a tarot rather than rolling for initiative. We also have custom class, custom magic item. And this campaign is going to introduce a lot of new uses for it within a D&D game.
Cool. And what prompted you to create something like that? Like, what was the inspiration for, this custom tarot deck for D&D?
Sure. Yeah. So we used to play a game with about 8 players, and rolling for initiative actually can be very stressful in the middle of a game and kind of take players out of it because a lot of math, a lot of people shouting out numbers. What I like about this version of initiative, it's a lot more elegant. Basically, you have all the players in there. You can put in more monster cards if you want, but you can just shuffle and play, and you're ready to go. Everybody has to pay attention because they don't know what order the initiative is, so they don't know round to round who's going to go next. And if you shuffle between rounds, everybody has to pay attention because you just never know what's going to happen. The monster could even go twice, which is always exciting and a little bit unexpected problem for players to face.
You say exciting. I think the bad guys going more often is less exciting in my games.
Yeah.
So, and I noticed the companion book. The companion book is new, though. That's a new product you haven't offered before.
That's right. So the companion book is something we've wanted to do for a while. We actually first kickstarted this 5 years ago, and this is the first time we've done a big reprint. And the book adds a ton of content. Previously, the deck came with a small book that's about 30 pages. This is going to be a huge 200-page book that has in-depth reading guidance, and then a ton of new content. So we've got backstory generation, alternative inspiration system, a villain generator, new feats, and we're even going to have a flip and rate game for people that like.
Beautiful. Well, to those watching, make sure to check out the campaign, give it a follow. The art is beautiful. It's a good time to take a look at it. And thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Now, sadly, I've never been too much into RPGs myself, which is a shame considering the amount of theme, lore, story that can be involved in those settings. Although if you do like that and are more into board games, that does make our next campaign a perfect fit considering the amount of world building there is. Coming from One More Turn Games, we have Ascendancy Underworld, an expansion to Ascendancy that's going to be introducing, well, let's talk to them about what it's going to be adding to the game. Matthew, thanks so much for joining us today to talk about Ascendancy Underworld, although I do want to say my most important question for you is your name is always listed as Matthew Meeple. Is Meeple your real last name?
Of course it is. I come from a long line of game designers. The blood of my ancestors holds the game design secrets.
Beautiful. Well, in that case, now that's completely and totally cleared up. In terms of Ascendancy Underworld,
Yeah.
I still have a few questions I want to go into, but the first one is, I guess, second one at this point, is this was your first published design. What's that experience been like to watch Ascendancy deliver, to see people's reception? How's that been for you?
Well, they say, for your first launch project, you should start small, start simple and easy, and we did completely the opposite. We made the biggest kitchen sink plus game possible, I think, for our first project as a studio. But I wouldn't have it any other way. That this was a dream project from the beginning, and it was a game that didn't exist, that I wanted it to exist in the world. So that's what we made, and we knew it was not going to be a game for everybody. Ascendancy is a big, complicated, with a lot of mechanics and things going on, and some people love that, and people who are more casual, it's not going to be for them. So we knew that going in, but I'd rather have something that some people are going to absolutely love than something that people are going to be okay on. So for me, that was always the vision. So that's what Ascendancy is.
And for the Underworld expansion, what does that add to the game?
Right. Okay. So from the beginning, back when Ascendancy was just an idea, Underworld is really the game we always wanted to make. So as we were developing the original, it became clear that the scope had just grown well beyond what we could actually deliver. So as a result, we had to cut some of the houses, some of the components, and the mechanics. And we loved them, but we just didn't have enough room in the box. There wasn't enough time to fully develop the concepts to the point that we were 100% happy with everything. So Ascendancy Underworld is really our chance to give you guys a game we always really wanted to give you. And with your funding, hopefully we can actually afford to make it this time.
And is there a follower gift in the campaign?
There will certainly be a follower gift. It's going to be cool. So follow along and you'll find out what it is. And if you want, I could talk about some of the features of the expansion.
Sure.
All right. So the first big one is we've got dungeons. So we've now added a full-blown dungeon crawler to your favorite 4X worker placement game. Whereas with vanilla Ascendancy, we had you traveling the overworld. The Underworld expansion will have you placing dungeon entrances on the map, and these sculpted entrances provide access to a fully dynamic sublayer where you'll be placing dungeon tiles. Each tile can be rotated, which results in an interesting A/B decision point for which room you want to explore next. We'll have nearly 100 different dungeon tiles for you to uncover, and no two layouts are ever going to be the same.
100 tiles.
Yeah, there's plenty of loot, plenty of special rewards for you guys to discover.
Cool.
And then we've got our two new houses. Today we're announcing House Lionheart. This was the #1 feature request. People wanted more than 4 houses, so today we're announcing these guys. They're kind of the Masonic zealots, and they look down their nose at the other houses of Ascendancy. They interrogate the blasphemous, and they smite any would-be transgressors. Prince Ricard, he's a Guardian class. We're featuring him on the reveal page. He's the first champion that you're going to meet, and he's a might type. His abilities do things like protect his allies. So he's very tropey on kind of the paladin side of things that you might imagine. The others are going to have some more surprises and more unconventional things that you might not think about.
And then as far as one more turn games in general, now that you're doing Ascendancy, you're doing Ascendancy Underworld, what are your future plans? Is this like a one-hit wonder studio? Do you have other games lined up?
I think Ascendancy is always going to be our main IP, but we, all of our projects are boutique, bespoke. They're passion projects. So anything we do, we want to deliver all the depth of a classic turn-based PC strategy game, but optimized for your tabletop. So all the things that we're working on currently behind the scenes are towards that goal. We're not announcing anything brand new just yet there, but right now we're just full steam ahead on this expansion. We're also expanding from 4 players to 6. We're going to have a bigger map. It's not going to take up too much more space on the table because Ascendancy already takes up a decent amount of tabletop space. So we're trying to get the right balance on that. And there's going to be, new campaign, new scenarios, new monsters, basically more of everything. If you already like Ascendancy, you're going to really love Underworld because it's even more cool stuff. So we're excited about it.
Perfect. Well, good luck on the campaign, and I hope you continue your long line of game designer tradition.
Cool. Thanks, Alex.
Now, Ascendancy only just came out and was met with high praise, and so an expansion might seem like the natural next step. Whereas our next game was also met with high praise, but I guarantee you did not see this expansion coming on several fronts. And that's because Phalanx is bringing back Nanty Narking. Nanty Narking is already a older title, although older is relative. Time moves so fast in the board game space that even a few years ago is older at this point, but Nanty Narking is coming back. Based on the original Terry Pratchett's Discworld and Morpok, then brought back as Nanty Narking, and now it's being brought back with a reprint and an expansion that is going to be bringing the Elder Gods to your table in this board game. As a huge fan of the original Discworld, as someone who still has to play Nanty Narking, I'm very excited for this campaign, and well, let's go ahead and talk to them directly and see what they're adding. So when I tell you that my 2025 bingo card did not have a lot of things on it, that's true. But one of the things that was definitely the least on it is Nanty Narking Cthulhu. What? Tell me more. Tell me more. What happened? Why now? Let's start with this. It's a 2019 game. Why now?
Why not? Well, we've been working on an expansion to this game for a long time already, and the expansion's ready. So this is time to launch it. I think that's a very good reason to have a game on a Gamefound. When it's ready, it's ready.
When you say working on the expansion, you mean like Nanty Narking Cthulhu? This has been the expansion, the plans all along.
Yeah, well, not at the beginning, but during the working on the project, we realized that the theme of the original Nanty Narking, which is Victorian London, fits perfectly with Cthulhu. And however, the original game has been finished. You say that the games are never finished; they are just published. Mm-hmm. So we kept on thinking, and we working on, incorporating the idea of how could be that idea incorporated into the setting. And we thought like, well, and it took a while until we realized we have to turn the whole concept upside down to have the players playing against the game rather than playing the old ones. So the old ones are in the game, but we're not controlling them. We're playing kind of like against the game. If the level of madness, which is helping them, reaches the top, everyone loses.
So this is a good time to dive into how this works. Is this fully cooperative compared to the original?
No, everyone has their own agenda, but the players may lose if London becomes mad.
So the players are still working on their own agenda, but there is a cooperative lose condition in place.
Yes.
Okay.
So to speak. But many things of these are secret, and I think you're going to learn more about the campaign, so follow.
Okay, so is there anything else as far as that we should know now as far as how mechanics work, or just in general wait till the campaign?
I would keep it for a secret for a while, so there is a reason to observe the campaign, join, and be part of it. There's going to be a lot of interesting stuff that we'll cover together with the name. For example, the name is not decided yet, so we're going to invite the community to help us define the final name for the product. This and many other things will be revealed during the campaign. So really, I would like to invite everyone to be part of it.
Okay, and then as far as the game, you mentioned it's an expansion. Is it a expansion that requires the base game? Is it standalone?
It does require it does require the base game. You need the base game, which is out of print, so that's a good moment for us to relaunch the game itself and have something extra, something non-expected for those who already have the original product.
Okay, so the base game will be available to buy, and something unexpected for those who have it already.
Yes.
Okay, and speaking of unexpected, is there a follower gift in the campaign?
As that is expected, right? So yes, there is.
Yes.
Yes, there is a follower gift. You'll be getting a mini of Dagon,
Okay.
which will be an add-on during the campaign. So it's good to follow early, so you make sure that you'll get it for free.
So does this mean there are a bunch of Elder God miniatures, or is that another follow-along question?
Many of them. We'll have plenty of them in there. And the company that makes the sculpts is called Big Child Creatives.
Oh,
and you know
wow.
them from Zombicide, yeah. So this is like top-notch minis. We'll pay a lot of attention. Nanty Narking has been a great production, and we're not going to make this one looking worse. It's going to be looking probably better than what we did before. We're always trying to raise the bar and deliver better products.
Well, perfect. Well, I'm excited. I never had a chance to play Nanty Narking, but I have played the original game, and I'm excited for Nanty Narking, and apparently Nanty Narking, Elder Gods, and all of that. Very well.
Kalala, they say, right? Kalala, not Cthulhu, but who knows? Who knows what is the correct pronunciation? It's good to hear you're excited. I am too. So let's look into what the campaign brings in.
Excellent. Good luck on the campaign.
Thank you so much.
Honestly, this next segue is the easiest one I'll be doing in today's feast. You see, if Nanty Narking and all the Elder Gods and Dark Rituals intrigue you, well, our next campaign is Dark Rituals. Dark Rituals is back for I believe a third campaign now, and this might be your last chance. I think it is your last chance to get the original content for this game before they dive into other things within this universe. But before I spoil too much, let's go ahead and talk to them directly and see what their plans are and what's in store for Dark Rituals. So Dark Rituals is an interesting project because this is a reprint but not an expansion, which I'm not used to seeing. It's usually like reprint and expansion and all of that. Can you tell me a bit more about why that is?
In last year, I was part of Dark Games, and as during my experience with Dark Games, we developed several games, including Dark Rituals, and for me, that was the game I liked the most in terms of setting. Last year I decided to get the IP rights to the game and to focus on developing more this universe in a different company, Monkey Games. So why we are doing the reprint? The reason is that the game is pretty old. It was produced in 2020, and the molds have a short shelf life. After 4 to 5 years, they tend to get moldy or rusty, and they need to be either retooled, which is a quite expensive business, or destroyed. So for us, this is the last chance to reprint the original game, and we did not want to miss this opportunity.
Okay, and is this a reprint for the entire, what is this reprint for? Just the base game, everything, the all-in? Like, what is it for?
No, we reprint everything. So all the expansions, the stretch goals, and of course all the core box and the big expansions as well.
Perfect. Well, thanks so much for joining us today. Good luck on the campaign, and good luck on the expanding universe as well.
Thank you.
Now I put a medium amount of work into these segues, and this next segue might be my favorite from today's feast. You see, while Dark Rituals might be your last chance to get those miniatures, this next campaign is your first chance to get these miniatures. Coming to you from One Page Rules, we have Grimdark Features Broken Truth, allowing you to get miniatures for that game, for that setting, for the first time. Join me as I talk to them so you can learn more about what's available, either as someone new to the series, or an already existing fan. Tano, Paul, thanks so much for joining us today to talk about the campaign for Broken Truth. Before we get into Broken Truth, this is based on the Grimdark Future universe. So for those who don't know about that, do you want to give us a short overview about what the Grimdark Future universe is?
Yes, so Grimdark Future, it's a miniature war game made to be, we say easy to learn and fast to play. Our company is One Page Rules, so as you can imagine, the actual rules are on one page. Which makes the game very easy to pick up. The rules are also all free online, and that's basically how We have become, one of the mainstays in the wargaming space for a while. People just, they hop on our website, they can get the rules for free. We have a great free app with which you can build your army roster. Grimdark Future specifically is our sci-fi universe. So, you can expect all sort of sci-fi things there, like, robots fighting Saurians, which is actually what this box is all about. But then also lots of other things. That's about it.
Well, speaking about what this box is all about, until now your players have had to either bring their own miniatures, print their own miniatures, or whatever it was. Tell us about the Broken Truth campaign. What's being involved here?
Right. So exactly as you said, so we have been, one of the mainstays for a while in the digital space. We have now a wide range of bestial miniatures, and it's very easy to get our minis if you can print them, if you have a 3D printer, and if you have, the time, if you have the space to have one in your house, and that's not everybody. And since the game is miniature agnostic, so since the inception of one-page rules, people have been playing it with miniatures that they already had, which is the point. The point is to make it accessible. But there was no way, no easy, no good way so far to get a full one-page rules starter set or a full army very easily. And this is what this campaign is about. So about us entering the physical space, which lots of people have been asking us to do, and trying to give them a great way to start the game, great way to play with their friends, with our minis, which are great sets in our universe. The box will have everything you need to play. We'll have 2 full-size armies. It will have rules. It will have terrain dice. So you can just open the box. You can read the rules, which fit on one page, and then you can play that same evening. And then if you want more, there's also a fuller role set that will also be included in the box. So this is Broken Truth. This is what the campaign is about.
And in the Grimdark Future, you have how many factions?
So in the game, there is like 25 factions, but we only have, I say only, we probably have like around 12 fully sculpted so far. But the campaign only features 2, of course.
And so what's the plans for the future?
Right, so that's the thing. So this is us entering that space, but it's not a one-off project. We don't want to just release a box that then will no longer be available. We are hoping, if this is successful, if people want this, we're hoping to start a line and to make these miniatures permanently available. So we're starting with 2 factions, and then if this works out, then we will add more. We'll add more units for the same faction, but we will also add more factions down the road. We might do more campaigns later. We will try to use this also to work with stores who have also been trying to work with us, but we haven't had a good product for them. So hopefully this is something that can get us started in having a proper line of miniatures that people can pick up whenever they want.
Perfect. Well, in that case, I hope the campaign is successful then. To those watching, if you want to get a sense of the miniatures or things what they look like, make sure to check out and follow the campaign page. And I also believe you mentioned there's another place they can see them?
Yes, so you can go to our Patreon page. You can go to our My Mini Factory page where to see our full range, and you can go to our website.
Perfect. Tano, Paul, thanks so much for joining us today, and good luck with the campaign.
Thank you.
Thank you.
From tabletop miniatures game to tabletop miniatures game, if you're interested in Grimdark Future's Broken Truth, you're probably interested in our next campaign as well, Starcide Promethean Crusade. Coming to you from Arkan Studio, who have done a lot of board games and a lot of miniatures, this is their first time making a full tabletop miniatures game experience. Let's go ahead and talk to them about the setting, the miniatures, the game, all that you can expect to see from this campaign. Yerk, thanks for joining us today to talk about Starcide Promethean Crusade. Can you tell us a little bit more about what this game is?
So it's a tabletop miniatures game. This is one of the first tabletop miniatures games we have in our pipeline to be released in 2025, and then 2026. It's the game which we basically starting our own IP, like a proper IP, much bigger scale than the games we used to make in the past. It's a fast-paced space combat game, kind of fleet command with the fleet command aspect. As being miniatures game, so obviously going to have different scales, different sizes of miniatures. We plan to support it forever, so don't expect any Star Wars Armada situations or whatsoever. So yeah. The team is very excited because, as I mentioned, this is the first kind of spin-off we want to do with our own IP, and the ideas we have for this game is huge. They're huge, yeah.
And so several questions from that. First of all, you say it's the first of the ones you have lined up. You have a whole bunch of tabletop miniatures games coming?
Yeah. I mean, as you might know, we have massive factory here. We make miniatures and models for many companies, big companies, small one. You probably find us on YouTube. What's funny, having just such a huge factory, we don't have our own IP manufacturer, our own products, our own games, miniatures games. So I think it's about time to change that one and then move away a little bit from IP products, which we had in the past. Like we do have miniatures games, but basically IP ones, which are not ours. External IPs like Masters of the Universe, for instance, one of the examples. So we just decided I think it's about time to start doing something here internally and then build some IP. And let's start small. Let's start with a small game. Let's start with the space combat game. And then we're going to be taking this one to a Petonomachy, which is like a mech combat game as well, which will be also miniatures. And that is planned for 2026. And also 2025/2026 will be a 32 millimeter mass battle game. So it's quite a lot of on our plate with that.
And then lastly, is there a follower gift in the campaign?
There is, yes. There is a follower.
Beautiful. Gift. Well, good luck in the campaign, and I'm excited to see both the miniatures as well as whatever line of tabletop miniatures games you come out with.
Okay, thank you. And thank you.
While Starcide is set in a hopefully fictional universe, our next campaign also takes place in space, but this time very much in reality. Space Delirium, who has a lot of campaigns under their belt, are tackling a board game for the first time with Dare the Unknown, a NASA board game, an officially licensed NASA project which has me very interested in not just the end result, but what that process is like to work with NASA on a board game. Let's go ahead and talk to them about what you can expect from this project. William and Alexandra, thanks for joining us today. Can you tell us a little bit about Dare the Unknown? How does the game play? What's the brief pitch of the game?
Well, thank you for having us.
Thank you.
So Dare the Unknown is a board game when you take commands of a NASA spacecraft, an iconic spacecraft like Space Shuttle, Saturn V. So it's a game under NASA licensed, and the players navigate around the boards using cards to move forward or disrupt your opponents. So the goal is to be the first to bring back your rockets safely to Earth. Okay. So it's inspired by Talk and Little Horses.
Interesting, cool. And until now, you guys have done tarot cards, you've done some dice sets, you have a lot of crowdfunding experience, but this is your first board game, right?
Yes, it's our first board game. It's a new challenge for us.
And why the challenge? Why the pivot to board games?
I think the goal was always to create a board game at the end. It's basically the essence of what we wanted to do since the beginning.
Okay, and is there a follower gift in the campaign?
Yes, you can have a special pin made by official NASA supplier. So if you follow, you can have the pin.
Now, so you mentioned this earlier as well. That's officially NASA licensed. Like, how does that come about?
We were really lucky. We had dinner with the representative of U.S. Embassy, and we talked about doing a NASA game. And we were lucky enough. They have their office next to the U.S. Embassy, so they introduced us to the representative of Europe of NASA in Europe. And we were lucky to be the first European company to use the NASA license for a board game.
Very cool. Because I'm not familiar. NASA's obviously NASA. I've just finished reading The Martian, watched Interstellar. I've been recently in a space deep dive, but it's so fascinating to see a fully licensed NASA board game. Very cool. Well, I'm excited to see the project. Good luck on it, and thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Bye.
Yeah, I'm sure NASA has licensed games before, but I have to imagine it was things like Monopoly and Uno and those kinds of mass market games. This is the first time that I'm aware of them licensing a more designer tabletop game, so I'm very curious how that will turn out. Now, our next campaign is going to be another RPG. Coming to you from Pelgrane Press, this is actually a deluxified version of an already existing RPG called Fear Itself. This is Fear Itself, Shattered Veil, as well as an expansion, and let's go ahead and talk to them about what you can expect to see. So, Kat, I've already said earlier today, not to you, mind you, but earlier today, that I'm not a TTRPG player myself. And to that end, for a TTRPG player, for someone who does dabble in RPGs, what's the unique selling point of Fear itself?
I think for me, the most exciting thing about Fear itself is how brilliantly you can recreate your favorite horror film with it. So it's absolutely ideal for those kind of one-shot adventures where you don't expect any of the protagonists to survive because they're going up against what we call creatures of unremitting horror, which are these terrible incursions from a realm beyond our own. So any kind of horror film you can think of, you can do that with Fear itself, and it plays really nicely into that genre and it allows the GM to bring all of the very best and worst best elements of their favorite horror film to the gaming table.
And I know it's based on the Gumshoe system, which doesn't mean anything to me, but what is that exactly?
So the Gumshoe system is a very straightforward, easy to use, D6-based investigative focused system. So you have what we call investigative abilities that allow you to gain information or gain clues as you progress through an adventure. And then you also have general abilities for where it might be more dramatically interesting to fail at a particular thing. So maybe if you're trying to drive away and escape from a terrible monster, it might be interesting if you roll a dice for that. So it's got those two different abilities, and that's basically the whole rule set. But it's designed to solve mysteries in play.
Which brings us to the actual campaign here, because this is not just for Fear itself, that already exists, but rather this is for Fear itself, the Shattered Veil, as well as the Ocean expansion. Can you tell us a bit more about those two things?
Yeah, absolutely. So originally when we did Fear itself, it was one of the very earliest Gumshoe games, although we've recently done a second edition. And because of that, the form factor was deliberately pared down. So it was a slim game, it was black and white, it was paperback, because it was designed to be really accessible to people. However, we work with a lot of translators around the world, and our Spanish translators recently took that kind of pared down simplistic format and they turned it into this absolutely beautiful deluxe hardback, full color, like amazing art and layout edition. And we were looking at that going, wow, we would love to do that. So that's what the Shattered Veil edition of Fear itself is. It's the same text as is currently in Fear itself, but it's got this really luxe and very disturbing art and layout formatting. And then the Ocean game is a brand new expansion for Fear itself. It takes some of the very earliest Fear itself lore and mythos about this mysterious, pervasive game that some people are involved in called the Ocean game. And it builds that out. It introduces new locations, new NPCs, and it also provides for starter adventures that you can use in any Fear itself game, or you can incorporate into a themed Ocean game campaign.
Okay. And now, I am curious about one thing. Having been to your site, and also having been to your previous campaigns, you've done maybe 7 or 8 crowdfunding campaigns, somewhere in that range. And you have, if you go to Pal Game Press, there's so many more things. What makes a game something that you decide to bring to crowdfunding versus direct to retail?
I think that's a fantastic question. For us, we've always looked at anytime we've published a lot of books, as you said, and anytime we are publishing a book or working on a book and we think, oh, wouldn't it be amazing if, as well as this, we could also include these like new factors. So like with Fear itself, the idea of doing it as a redone full color hardback, a super luxified version, it just sounded amazing. But it's not necessarily something that we could do for retail. It's really targeted to collectors and to people who love, the really premium products. So that makes it a perfect project for crowdfunding, because it is something you're not going to be able to get in retail stores. It's never going to be in mainstream distribution. It's really a specialized project for people who appreciate that level of disturbing and awful horror.
Gotcha. So it does have to be something a little bit typically outside the norm.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and we're hoping to do. We're still working on what the final campaign will look like, but we're hoping to bring in some more even more specialized elements into it, as well as the core, the 2 books. Because that's what we've done in the past. Is we did another crowdfunding campaign called the Dracula Dossier, and on offer there we had whole vampire staking hunting kits, and we like to, anytime we have a project where we're like, we could include all of these extra amazing things, that's when we take it to crowdfunding rather than retail.
Makes sense. And then last question, do you have a follower gift from the campaign?
Yes, we will do. We absolutely will do. Can't reveal yet what it is, but watch this space. We're hoping it's going to be a really exclusive bonus PDF for people.
Perfect. Well, thanks so much for joining us, and good luck on the campaign.
Sure. Thank you so much for chatting with me.
Now, as I said earlier, I'm not a big RPG player myself, but sometimes hearing one described makes me wish I was. Hearing everything about Fear itself makes it sound like a journey that I wish I was on. Now, our next campaign, coming to you from Nordic Pirate Games, is an expansion to their incredibly successful Lying Pirates. And they're back this time with Lying Pirates Cities of Greed. Take a little bit of Liar's Dice, mix it into a larger board game, and that's what you have with Lying Pirates, but Cities of Greed introduces new elements to that game, and let's go ahead and find out what those are. So Lucas, your first campaign did tremendously well for a first campaign, bringing in over 5,000 backers, and now you're launching Cities of Greed. Can you tell us a little bit what the expansion adds to the game experience?
So the expansion is made to increase player interaction further. We heard from players they wanted more conflicts and more rewards. So that's what Cities of Greed is about. It's going to activate cities on the map from the previous game, from the original game.
Okay.
So we're combining new sets of components, new tiles, so a lot more. It's a nice and juicy little upgrade pack for sure.
Gotcha. And then speaking of the success of your campaign, what's that experience been like for you as far as, having an incredibly successful first campaign, delivering it, seeing people's reactions? What has that process been like?
It's a fantastic experience for the one who is, energized and eager enough to perform such a thing. It takes a lot, but the reward is definitely meeting our fans on Spiel in Essen. That's the most fantastic experience, to see everybody so happy playing, and yeah, it's takes this the digital and making it analog where we belong,
And what was your original inspiration for wanting to create this in the first place? Like, what made you decide I want to create this game?
So that's a fun story. I had been traveling to China, learning Liar's Dice in China, then came back, and we started to fidget around with the concept of Liar's Dice. Like, how can we add a layer to this? Because this is fun. How can we add more to this? So it started very small. It took a lot of years to turn it into what it is today.
And what's next for your company? Is this something you plan on continuing to expand? Do you have other games in the lineup?
So we were working on a very interesting idea with a lot of resource management, as well as anonymous auction styles. So set collection, those sort of mechanics. Okay. It's a very different style of play, but yeah, that's something in that line we're exploring now.
Is that 2025, 2026?
Or
no
wrong.
comment.
We've been wrong with launch dates before. However, I would want to pressure myself and my team, and hopefully say it's possible a campaign could launch during 2025.
Very cool. And then bringing it back to this campaign, is there a follower gift in the campaign?
No, however, we do have a Gamefound exclusive component, so it's going to be a new captain, so only for the ones who back on Gamefound.
Perfect. Well, thanks for joining us today, and good luck on both this and whatever you have in the queue.
Thanks a lot, Alexander.
I love how the answer to how did this come to pass was, well, I played a game and I liked it, so I made my own game. Like, no recognition for all the hurdles that should be in the way between those 2 points, so kudos to him for making that happen. Now, our last campaign is coming to you from Wise Wizard, and this is Star Realms Conquest, a diving back into the universe with a new core set and a whole lot of goodies. Let's go ahead and talk to Rob about those goodies and about some of the things you can expect to see in this campaign. So Rob, we're coming up on 10 years now of Star Realms. It came out in 2014. We're actually in 2025 at this point. So I guess 11 years of Star Realms at this point. 3 full core sets, the base set, you have Colony Wars, you have Frontiers, and now you're doing a 4th core set, Conquest. Can you tell us a little bit more about what's in the core set? Anything new, more of the same but different? Like, what's going on in the core set here?
Sure. So every Star Realms set, the core set, is designed that it can be a player's first Star Realms set, or it's awesome expansion material for someone who already plays Star Realms. So like the base set, Frontiers and Colony Wars, we're going to have an all-new 80-card market using the original factions. So you'll have Blob, Machine Cult, Trade Federation, Star Empire cards. So it'll be more ships and bases for those all new ships and bases, all new market deck. But it'll have those same factions and feel that you're used to. So if you've played base set and you've played Frontiers and you kind of know the feel difference between those sets, you're going to have a similar thing going on there. But we're also going to have bonus content in here. We've got a new card type called Planets. And Planets, if you choose to play with them, you'll shuffle them in the market deck. And Planets are acquired with combat. So basically, Planets you conquer. So they'll function a little bit like bases, but they are acquired through combat. So we're going to have, so this will be a full standalone, but also fully compatible with all the other Star Realms content that we have out there. And we're also, this is not just a core set. This is basically a block of Star Realms. So for example, when we came out with the original base set, we then had a promo card set, and we had the crisis packs, etc. So we have groupings of packs that go along with the set, but are fully compatible with all the other Star Realms stuff. Here, we're going to be doing a similar thing where we've got some additional packs that go along with some new game mechanic content. And we also have 5 new legendary commanders. So legendary commanders are basically Star Realms commanders at the height of their power. They are, when you play with a legendary commander, it replaces your normal starting deck, and you are able to take on 2 players at once who are playing regular starting decks, or you can play against another legendary commander. There are 6 legendary commanders that came out with the Frontiers block, and we have that. All of those are multi-faction, so they'll have cards of 2 different factions in their starting deck. These legendary commanders we have coming out with it in this mono faction. So, like any legendary commanders, they can buy cards of any faction, play cards of any faction, but they're going to start with cards of a specific faction in their starting deck and have gambits that are unique to them that start in play and work well with their faction of choice. And there's also a powerful 8-cost ship of their faction that if you're playing with them, you shuffle that 8-cost ship in the market deck. They could end up purchasing it, or their opponents could end up purchasing it. But basically, you get a cool, powerful ship of their faction in play. And so the legendary commanders are a lot of fun in that they mix up how the play feels, give you sort of an asymmetric starting point, and can be used for 2v1 raid boss play. And of course, we've got a ton of promo cards. So Star Realms campaigns have done very well for us in the past, and we've unlocked many stretch goals. So this time we're being very well prepared, and we've designed a massive set of promo cards ahead of time. So we've got a ton of promo card content that will unlock during the
excellent
course of the campaign.
Thanks so much for joining us, Rob, and good luck on the campaign.
Awesome, thank you.
11 years of any game is certainly something to be proud of, and Star Realms 11 years later keeps on going strong, with legacy games, family-friendly versions, and now a new core set. And with that, we wrap up another Feast event. As usual, games and projects covered today. Whether you're interested in board game furniture and board game tables, whether you're interested in a variety of space-themed games, a bunch of miniatures, RPGs, dungeon crawlers, and more, hopefully there was something there today that caught your interest. Until next time, I'm Alex Radcliffe, CMO of Gamefound. Thank you again for joining us today, and as always, I hope you have a good one.